Find out today. Twitch. Okay, let's load it up. Make sure we are in fact live.
How can I find this quote tweet?
Find out today. Yep, we're good. All right, Twitter.
We are live again. Yay, technical difficulties. Okay. I don't know. You know what? Whatever, Twitter. I don't understand you. You don't understand me.
Right.
Nobody's happy.
But seriously, for real this time. All right, let's get this thing going before we don't have any more chances.
Okay.
All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to TVGP's Game Club Cast, where folks from the TVGP forums get together once a month and talk about a community-voted game. I'm your host, The Hannah, and with me today is Boston.
Hi.
We are down a man today. Unfortunately, Scott won't be joining us. But we have got we've got a game.
We have an experience.
That's probably a better word for it.
Yeah. A near documentary.
Yeah, so we had some interesting nominees this month. We had, I nominated Outland, got picked, so hey, that's pretty cool. Urgent X Fury, once again, in the mix with Rambo, the video game. Appreciate the tenacity.
He hates us.
Yes, which, hate all you want, because we need it.
We will play it at some point.
It will happen.
It has been in the list.
And of course, our winner this month, Team Asil, with Spec Ops The Line. Team Asil, I'd like to apologize up front. I thought I sent you a message on the forums. I checked today, and it was sitting in my drafts folder. So I'm the worst. And
I would blame that more on the forum software than you.
I mean, yeah, kind of a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, that's
it's not the best.
It's not the best. Hopefully we'll get something new soon.
Yeah.
But Team Asil, feel free to contact me. Let me know. We may be able to put something up. Just you explaining why you chose this game.
If he sends it in, it'll go right here.
It will. It will absolutely go right here. So we will put that in, and we will figure that out.
Yep.
So yeah, we are talking Spec Ops: The Line, which was the
Yes.
winner. And really, no one's a winner here. And not because
No.
of the quality. Not at all. This is I don't know. It feels like it's like a good grunge song. It just makes you feel terrible and great at the same time.
It's like when you feel bad and you just kind of lean into it more by watching a real sad movie.
Yeah. It's kind of that. It's the video game equivalent of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got a real bummer this month.
Yeah.
And I keep saying that, and it sounds like I'm judging the quality. This is an excellent game. Let's say that up front. This is an excellently put together video game. But if you see, I'm sorry, wrong way. If you see the gentleman over here to the direction I'm pointing, I'm really not sure if it's left or right. That sums up the game.
Yeah.
So Spec Ops: The Line is a third-person, cover-based shooter published and produced by 2K Games, developed by Jaeger and released on June 26, 2012. The game is a reboot of Take-Two's Spec Ops series, originally a series of tactical shooters by Zombie Studios. Actually, fun fact, at one point, so me and Binary Viking from the forums, we both worked at the same Game Crazy store for a long time. We worked with a good friend of ours, Jack, and we were literally just three metalheads running a video game store, and it was just chaos.
Yeah.
And so one week after we had done inventory, we were still... Game Crazy, for people who don't know, it was like GameStop, but they specialized in everything. They sold all sorts of stuff, including like cartridges, old stuff, while GameStop was out of that. They were just selling new stuff. And, of course, your used stuff at a discount. We had the same thing, but, we stretched back a little bit. So we had this huge stack of PS1 games. And we had probably about 100 copies of various versions of the Spec Ops games.
Yeah, the original ones.
And so one day, Binary Viking picks up the phone and says, normally you're supposed to say, like, oh, well, thank you for calling Game Crazy, where you can pre-order, Game of the Month. Mm-hmm. He just picked it up and said, thank you for calling Game Crazy, where we have plenty of copies of Spec Ops. How can I help you? And it was the district manager on the other end.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Love that story. So This is a reboot of an older series that didn't. You weren't expecting a whole lot out of this game necessarily. It's like, oh, it's a special operations shooter. It's going to be kind of. You see the Spec Ops name and you kind of go, it's going to be kind of by the numbers. It'll be okay, but it'll be by the numbers.
Some war, a budget title, rah rah America.
Yeah. So here's the quick synopsis, and this is very surface level. Set in Dubai after a catastrophic series of sandstorms destroys the city, the game focuses on Delta Squad, an elite three-man team set to investigate Dubai after the military discovers a distress call from Lieutenant Colonel John Conrad, whose battalion abandoned their post to lead a failed evacuation of the city.
Enter Downward Spiral.
Enter Downward Spiral, yes. And possibly put on Downward Spiral. It will go with the tone.
That's true.
So let's take a trip back, go back to June of 2012. Overall reception was fairly positive. It wasn't top level, you're not taking out your top shelf words for this game, but it did make a splash simply because of the story.
Yeah.
So Giant Bomb, Jeff Gerstmann gave it a 3 out of 5, saying that Spec Ops: The Line is a mostly standard shooter with its share of rough edges, but it handles the subject matter of armed conflict in some extremely interesting ways. Yeah, that's one way to put it. Yeah. GameSpot's Chris Waters gave it a 6.5 out of 10, stating that the disconnect between the gameplay and the narrative elements of Spec Ops: The Line is numbing, which makes it more difficult to contemplate the murky morality of war in the way the game wants you to. Also pretty fair. And PC Games Germany gave it an 8.1 out of 10.
Yep. I couldn't figure out who reviewed that because it was mostly in German.
Okay. And so I assume this went through Google Translate at some point.
Metacritic had a little bit of a translated thing, so
okay, nice.
Seems like it did a pretty good job.
A solid third-person shooter that delivers intense action and a compelling setting, but relies too much on established mechanics rather than delivering something new. The story, however, really stands out. A grim and challenging reflection on violence is something you won't find in any typical shooter. Fortunately, it's also missing that dull patriotism you've come to expect from today's military action games.
I liked that review because of that last section where it's like, it's a standard shooter and it does some interesting things, but it's also not going to gloss over and be like, we're doing great. We're doing the right things, guys.
It's not just going like, hoorah, and like, all right, let's wave the flag. Yay, America.
Yeah.
So what else came out around this time? Let's look at its peers. We had Starhawk, which...
unfortunately flopped.
Come on. Yeah. Diablo 3, which, okay, you're not...
Still going strong.
Still going strong. I still play that game, man.
Yep.
Max Payne 3, which we just recently did a recap for. That was number 34, I believe.
I think so.
Dragon's Dogma, which, I can't believe that game's that old. It just came out on PC not like 3 months ago, right?
Yeah, very recently.
Yeah, so I played a little bit of that. I really enjoyed it. The personal favorite of yours, The Binding of Isaac, The Wrath of the Lamb.
Yeah.
Lollipop Chainsaw, a knobs hit.
Yes.
getting everybody in here, man.
Oh, yeah.
Civilization 5, Gods and Kings, which I guarantee you Jay-Z has put in, I couldn't tell you how many hours.
8,000 hours.
La Mulana, was that sort of Splunky-esque game?
Yep, like a Metroidvania puzzle game.
And Orcs Must Die 2.
Which is older than I thought.
Yeah. So that's right around when it was coming out. This came out in June, so like kind of in that summer lull. There's not a whole lot on this list. You're talking May through July, so...
Yeah, except for Diablo 3.
Yeah, which Blizzard drops a game whenever they want, and whenever Blizzard drops a game, it's an event.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I mean, look at the Overwatch beta. What was it? Something like close to 10 million people played that?
Yeah, for just a beta.
Yeah, so incredible stuff here. So, top of the pile or overlooked... Yes, it's a well-regarded hidden gem. I would put it almost in the same category of Alpha Protocol, but maybe just a little better on the gameplay side of things.
A little more polished.
A little more polished, a little more experience behind the actual gameplay mechanics and stuff, and the story is significantly more serious and taken significantly more seriously than Alpha Protocol's was, because Stephen Heck.
Yeah.
Although, if he had shown up in this game, it would not have been out of place.
That's true.
Which is kind of horrifying in a number of ways.
Yeah.
So let's jump into the meat of this thing. What did you like about it?
I liked I liked the boy. There's a lot.
There's a lot to unpack with this game.
So what I played this on PC. Did you play it on PC as
I
well?
played it on PC, but I noticed you played it with the keyboard because I watched a couple of your videos.
Yeah, you
You
can
do
find them at
keyboard and mouse.
bostoncannon.com.
Yeah, and I ended up going with an Xbox 360 controller just for convenience sake.
Sure. Um, I liked I liked the downward spiral. I liked that this team came in from a gameplay perspective. It's fine. It's a cover-based shooter. The guns are good. There's never really enough ammo, so you kind of have to keep switching them up.
As far as a cover-based shooter, it reminds me a lot of like the original, the progenitor of the cover-based shooter, Kill Switch.
Yes.
It's a similar setting. It's third person,
Yeah.
and it seems like a very polished version of that.
Yeah. I liked the downward spiral. I liked this fresh-faced squad coming in beyond the storm wall,
Oh god, that's
and
such a cool name for it.
I know, and knowing that they're going to come in and they're going to do their job and they're going to do it quickly and they're going to do it right.
Yeah.
And watching, if you compare the squad that came in at the beginning, just at the very least, also I think we should warn spoilers are going to happen.
Yeah, spoilers. If you haven't played this game and really want to preserve the experience, just
Yeah,
honestly
go play it. I
go
think
play
it's
it instead of watching
5 or 6
this.
hours.
Yeah.
It's pretty short.
Oh
Or
yeah,
go watch it.
4 hours for me. I think on easy, I plowed through it in like 4 hours. The only thing I had to do was skip that last fight and watch the ending on your YouTube channel.
Yeah. Um, if you compare the squad at the beginning and you compare the squad at the end, there's so many interesting things. It's easiest to see the visual differences. You know, they are just blown to hell and burned and bloodied. But there's also, if you notice, one interesting thing that it took me a while to notice that Nolan North's voice acting gets gruffer and more and dirtier throughout
And
the entire
way
thing
more intense.
and way more intense from the beginning where it's all business and at the end it's just he's dropping f-bombs all over the place. He's like, it sounds like he can barely speak. He's just yelling all the time. It's just, I loved watching that slow decline of all three people in Delta Squad.
Deltas, yeah.
Yeah, Delta Squad over this entire experience.
Yeah.
I guess is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, you say the downward spiral, and man, it is not like it's not a fun downward spiral like a slide at the park. It is a
No.
gritty, jagged, terrible descent into like the horrible things other human beings do to each other in the name of survival.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you're in the middle of the desert, you're in the middle of Dubai, and it's been hit by these massive sandstorms, and they're not stopping. There's this wall of storms that is preventing evacuation,
Yeah.
and you're up against, we have water, but we need to ration it. We need to keep it, and it's just this. Oh, it's just it's so good.
I think you reminded me of something else I thought was interesting in the game when you mentioned Dubai. I like Dubai as a character in this game. I think it's normally when you see Dubai, especially in pictures and in video and in movies, you see these beautiful, glowing 100-foot giant skyscrapers. And
Yeah,
in this
you
game,
think the Burj Dubai, like you see that giant tower.
yeah, and in this game, it's under what has to be hundreds of feet of sand, and these buildings have been stripped by the sand and stripped by the people of Dubai that are still trapped there. And it's interesting seeing what happened to this city as you're crossing rooftops, as you're climbing down buildings, as you're breaking windows open to bury squads of enemies under sand.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see this Dubai that's just completely destroyed.
Yeah, it's really, yeah, the city, the fact that you were in Dubai plays a really central role of this whole thing. And one of my favorite things in this game was the little hidden things they found. It was done so perfectly and so appropriately. You get these little pieces of intel as you go through the levels, and there's only like one or two per chapter, but they are not just like audio logs and not just like random things that you pick up. They are very specifically placed there, like in the level that has a downed plane. You pick up that plane's black box, and you
Yeah.
get just sort of this little color of the world of like, oh, these two pilots. This is like the last plane that was leaving Dubai before the major storms hit, and you can hear them talking like, oh yeah, we got some wind shear, whatever, and then it suddenly just plummets into like, oh, that's not wind shear. That
Right.
is the biggest like sandstorm we've ever seen. And
And those are incredibly well voice acted.
but one of my favorites, and when you say that the city was stripped,
Mhm.
was you find like this little forge that they've been using to make bullets.
Oh wow.
And they've literally been melting down all the silver they can find in the city to make
Oh
bullets. So they're literally killing American soldiers with silver bullets.
wow. I never found that.
And
That's incredible.
there's this really intense, and on some of them like it's another character doing voiceover, but in some of them it's just Nolan North's character, Captain Walker,
Hmm.
doing the voiceover and just explaining like what he found and what it means to him. And he just the line he says is one of my favorites in the whole game is, "At least a soldier's life doesn't come cheap,"
Oh wow.
which is just like, that's a little dark.
Right. Yeah, this game definitely does not pull punches with
No.
the fact that you are killing people and you are killing American soldiers.
Yeah, which
And you
is
don't want to.
no. It is the first time you have to do it. It's like, am I what am I supposed to?
Yeah, like am I doing this wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other big points you want to bring up?
I liked there was one moment way later in the game
Hmm.
that I liked. So the beginning of the game starts in media res where you're basically shooting down other helicopters from this helicopter
Yeah.
and you're like shooting them through buildings and they're running into construction and it's a super great action scene.
And you are headed towards the storm wall.
Yeah, and eventually like you smack right into it.
Yeah.
And I love when you come back to that scene later in the game
Yes.
and Nolan
Oh, that
North is
was
like, "What are we
wonderful.
doing? We already did this." And someone's like, "What?" And he's like, "No, never mind."
Just that little subtle fourth wall breaking
Yeah.
was, and it had to be done
Yeah.
to get like the point and the weight of this game across. You just had to. They dipped a toe over that line.
Yeah.
And just went sort of like, hey, this is gonna look real familiar for you in a minute here.
Yeah.
And when that game opened, I just assumed they just sort of blah 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 that whole section of like, oh yeah, helicopter crash, now you're coming in.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and so,
Or like that's how the game ends or something.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But not quite.
No. And I do also like one additional small bit. I do like that there's no final boss battle. I like
There
that
sort of is that last fight that's your last boss, is this big wave of enemies that you're just taking out, like you're taking out a base.
yeah. I do like that there's no traditional like the thing I was expecting is you get up there and you fight Conrad.
Yeah.
I was expecting it to be this thing. You do in a sense, but
Yeah.
thankfully it's not like it's you and me, just the two of us. It's not
Yes, it's not Matrix.
it's not every other video game,
Yeah.
I should say.
So one of my favorite things in this was just the little touches. Like there was so many little things they did throughout the game. Like so the intel was one of them.
Yeah.
But also the objectives that you would get in some of the missions. There's one in particular when you finally made contact with Conrad. And he starts talking to you, and it's very, if you've seen Apocalypse Now, it's very Colonel Kurtz.
Yeah.
He's kind of very intense, and he has a very strict level of control over this small group of people. And he is doing so because he is trying to save their lives.
Yeah.
And you get to this point, and you come to what used to be this huge overpass, and now it's basically just like 10 feet above you. And there's two dudes hanging by their necks from it. And he says, okay, well, this guy here, he stole water. And this soldier was sent, and the other guy that's hanging is a soldier. The first guy is a civilian, obviously, but the second guy is a soldier. And it's like, this man was sent to bring him in to pay for his crime, but in the process, he killed his whole family.
Yeah.
And so you are then tasked with, you need to choose, you need to kill one of these two guys, or these snipers are going to take you out.
Yeah.
So you have to make that choice. And just that point in the game, just that little turn it takes, and it's like, oh, this is something deeper. That was when like the spiral kind of got deeper for me.
Yeah.
But the objective, and it doesn't say, like kill, choose who to kill, blah blah blah. It just says obey.
I did notice that, and I was just like, oh,
And it's just like, oh
something's
man.
not right here.
And then there's one way later. I think it just says like run, like mf'er. I think.
It does, yeah, like get the F out of there or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, and it just they play with just that's another little bit of fourth wall breaking they do in this, of just like they are putting something in the objectives that is just like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna do that. I mean, that's what I'm gonna do. Like that's not really an objective. That's just the only choice I have right now.
Well, and most famously, they play with the loading screens too. I
Yes.
don't know if you noticed that,
Yeah, some
but
of those got really dark, like the one
yeah,
about Lugo that I saw.
it's interesting because most games are like, "Hey, pull right trigger to shoot your gun,"
Hmm.
but this one is like, no matter what you do in Dubai, you're still a good person.
Yeah,
And like
yeah.
that's the beginning of the downward spiral, and it gets deeper and darker even on the loading screens as you
Hmm.
continue through that.
Yeah, there's so many little bits where they're just playing with your expectations, and most people. And the funny part is that loading screen thing. A lot of people just won't read those because
Yeah,
they
because
just
it's
think
just normal.
yeah,
Whatever, throw,
yeah.
hold this thing to throw a grenade. Sure.
I think there was one about Lugo that was just really dark. He's one of your squad mates, and there's a point in the game where he is killed.
Yeah.
And that's I want to get to that in great moments, because that is a moment in this game.
Yeah.
But the thing that happens is after that, one of the loading screens said, like Lugo probably would have died anyway.
I remember
And
seeing that. I was just
and
like,
it was just like,
oh,
I don't know how comfortable I am with this anymore.
yeah.
But this is a game that is entirely comfortable with making sure that you're not.
Exactly.
And I think it's almost this Dark Souls kind of thing of like just grading against the player in such a specific way, but they don't do it through the gameplay. They don't do it through the difficulty. They do it through challenging narrative, and they do it through challenging your expectations of what this game is.
And they do it through forcing you to do something.
Yes,
At,
yes, you
at
have
some
to make a
point,
choice.
like you have to make a choice, or you have to try and find a creative way out of a situation. But there are also instances where you have to do what you're told,
Hmm.
and you have to do something to survive. And that's when it gets the most horrible because it's never a cutscene.
No, it's never a cutscene. You are almost always in control in this game. I think, except for like a couple of minor spots where it's just sort of an in engine like scene that's happening around you.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, that is. There are so many good things about this game. The weapons and the shooting, they felt good. They were fine.
It was good.
Yeah,
It's
there was a
not.
good. I think there was a good variety of weapons.
Mhm.
I think that
I,
was really to its advantage.
I liked the ammo scarcity. You never could just say, "All right, I got this one weapon and I really love it." You continually had to scavenge for guns. I was
Yeah.
playing on normal difficulty throughout, I think 90% of it,
Okay.
and you really did have to. You kept running out of bullets, no matter
Yeah.
how well you were doing.
So you just
You
had to
had to
swap
scavenge
weapons.
guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as you kill an enemy, you have to get their weapon because that has to have at least a full clip in it,
Hmm.
and yours doesn't.
Yeah. I think my standard. I mostly use the M4.
Yep.
So that was a big one just because it has the silencer on it.
Yeah.
But generally, I would keep either depending on where I was. Like I tried to be context sensitive. Like if I was in a building, I'd probably grab a shotgun because there's gonna be some up close stuff.
Right.
But sometimes you get into some of those buildings. These buildings are massive, and you're like, oh, I could probably use a sniper rifle here.
Yeah, like it's still Dubai. These things are giant.
Yeah, and so I like have a sniper rifle or maybe another. If the option came up, like an RPG or a grenade launcher or something.
Yeah.
But generally, I would keep like a small arms, like a P90 or an UMP 45, and like an M4 or an AK.
Right.
Just a rifle and a submachine gun or a shotgun or a handgun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have a whole ton. I played on easy just because I knew I wanted to get through it. And I'll be completely transparent. I started this game on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I did play like the first hour and a half a couple years ago, so it was somewhat familiar. I got through this game in like 4 hours. The
Yeah,
only
it's
thing
not very long.
the only thing I didn't do was that last fight because I was in like just in the middle of it, and I died like 3 or 4 times. And I was like, okay, just did a little googling. It was like, how much more do I have to go? And it was like, oh, if you're there, you have like 10 minutes to go. So I was like, I know Boston played it. All right,
I'm just gonna watch it.
I'm just gonna watch the rest of this here. And
Yeah,
really,
exactly.
after that fight, you don't do anything.
Yeah, it's just narrative,
Yeah,
really.
so I'll just go back this weekend, finish out the last 20 minutes. But like, I got the narrative of it, so
Yeah.
I feel pretty good about that. The other thing I liked was they were not afraid to just throw tons of enemies at you.
Yeah, I like and I don't like that because I feel like every encounter you earned that victory. Like
Yes.
you were fighting. It wasn't like here comes another wave and it's like 5 dudes. It's here comes another wave and it's 50 dudes,
Yeah.
and they are everywhere.
Yes, they are everywhere, and they are not that dumb. Even on easy, they were flanking me. They were trying to flush me out.
Yep.
They were using grenades, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And the other thing I liked was how simple it was to control your squad mates. It wasn't like a thing where it was like, okay, left bumper, and then like you'll get a radial menu and blah blah blah. It was like, no, you just highlight the dude you want them to go after, and they go after him.
Yep. And on keyboard and mouse, it was just hold in the middle mouse button, and when you're highlighted on somebody, and they just do their thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. On 360 controller, it was right bumper.
Nice. Yeah, they made it super easy to control, which I was really happy with. The controls, even on keyboard and mouse, once I got used to them, it was a little weird where it's like hit spacebar to go under cover, hit left shift to vault over cover. Some stuff was a little weird, but once you got used to it.
Deus Ex to me, like Deus Ex has a similar layout on keyboard, but
Yeah.
I know myself. I know I have this weird cognitive dissonance when it comes to playing third person games with a keyboard and mouse. It just something about it just doesn't jive with me very well. So I just immediately went to the controller and just skipped that step.
I mean, it supports it, so why not?
Yeah, and it supports it really well too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much good in this game.
Yeah.
But what things did you find disappointing or not like about the game?
I think for me, there were two things, and I think these are kind of small things. When viewing this game through the lens of it's about 4 years old, because there's some stuff where it's, it ran well on my PC, because my PC is probably about 4 years old. I think as good as it was that they're sending squads of enemies at you all the time, I feel like a lot of encounters, I was getting down to it, and I felt like I was fighting like 5 to 10 too many enemies on a lot of these encounters. Where it's like, oh my god, there's more of them. Like, I've already gone through 30 guys. Let's kind of keep moving on.
Yeah.
I thought that could have been short up a little bit on some of these encounters, but surprisingly, the thing that killed me the most and the thing that drove me the craziest in this game is grenade blast radius was huge.
Yes.
And it's like a one-shot kill if a grenade blows up an area.
Yeah, I encountered that a whole bunch. You would just hear it, like, you would hear it fall, and you were like, "Well, okay."
Yeah, unless you run like 3 covers over.
But the flip side of that was grenade blast radius was huge, and so like your grenades were super effective.
Yeah,
I had one where I had a bunch of dudes that were just coming down this. They were in a line, and they were all coming towards this guy on a turret. So I just threw one behind the guy on the turret, and I think that I finished that wave in about 3 seconds.
Nice.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, but other than that, I feel like there were sort of minor issues that I had, but they're all kind of this game's 4 years old, so it didn't have the kind of third person standards we have nowadays.
Yeah, and even then, I was trying to keep in mind that it was that age, and just comparing it to other, like, I compared it to like Kill Switch, which, I mean, you go back and play that game's probably unplayable now.
Right.
But it's very Gears of War, but a little bit quicker, a little bit snappier. It had some more context sensitive stuff when you're sliding in and out of cover. Especially, like, you would actually get low before you dove into cover a lot of times if you were slipping out. So it was smart about that stuff, which I appreciated. One of the things that really bugged me about this game was the short ramp to this big reveal. It was lickety split. I mean, you find out everything in the last 10 minutes of that game.
Yeah.
I wish there had been just a little more build, and I feel like if I go back and I replay it, there's probably a lot more build that I didn't notice up front.
Yeah, and that's what I was just going to say is I feel like this game's short length is almost due to you getting that bomb at the end and getting those quick cutscenes where it's like the walkie-talkie doesn't have batteries in it, and
Those two guys hanging there have been dead for weeks.
yeah, and like you're talking to yourself, and they gave you some of those. I feel like those were almost breadcrumbs to say, hey, you need to play this again, because I feel like if you do, then that ramp is way longer. Because I immediately felt that same way, where it's like, wow, that was a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the credits. Oh, wait, hold on, wait, what? Like, the pieces started coming together.
To spoil it, you are Tyler Durden.
Exactly.
It is,
and
yeah.
I almost want to go back and play through it again and get the other ending, because I feel like it goes wrong as soon as the game starts.
Yeah,
like as soon as chapter 1 starts, I feel like you can see all of the clues there. It's like watching Fight Club again. That's a perfect analogy. Is you can see it all come apart when you know why it's coming apart.
Yeah, to me this felt like this is the apocalypse now for the Fight Club generation.
Right.
It's a very similar. It's that Heart of Darkness. Like you're just going deeper, and you're finally going to meet the man behind it all. But guess what? The man behind it all was you.
Yeah, and you are at the bottom.
Yeah. Well, you're at the top, but you're kind of also at the bottom.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, literally, the game literally ends at the top of the Burj Dubai, like the tallest building in the world. So
yeah.
Man, there's too much good about this game for me to really want to talk any negative about it. But I felt like it was just like it hit you in the face and the game's over.
Yeah,
it was just so
I think that's
fast, so fast. But at the same time, I'm kind of like maybe it just didn't overstay its welcome.
That's true. Yeah, you don't want to. You don't want it to suffer the BioShock problem where it's like, that was a great scene. How much more when is this over?
Or you don't want to have that like Max Payne moment where you have this weird like psychological trip where you're following the blood trail and it just looks terrible.
Yeah.
Okay. Give me just 1 second here. I have to respond to something really quick.
I'll just cut this out of the final thing.
Thanks. Sorry. My wife's gonna bring the baby monitor down real quick. Just gotta make a trip somewhere.
Sure.
So, all right. Let's keep it dark.
All right.
Yeah. So I mean, as far as negatives about this game, I would just say the most negative feeling I have is just the gameplay feels so mediocre. It's
4 years old and it's okay.
Yeah, and it was just okay then.
Yeah.
It was just sort of like, it's okay. It's not great. I would have loved to see just a little more care taken in the in just the construction of the gameplay. It would have been really nice to see. One of the things that got to me was the dissonance of, okay, we're killing American soldiers. We don't want to be killing American soldiers. Press B to execute this American soldier.
Right.
In this really horribly violent way.
Yeah.
And it was almost, I don't know if that was just like, that feels like almost like the money aspect coming to like, well, we gotta have executions. Like Gears of War does, like the chainsaw stuff. Like we gotta have something here. But like you're literally like and it's weapon specific too. Like it
is, and it's horrible.
And it's like you get the P90, you shoot the dude in the knee, he sits up and you shoot him in the head.
And unfortunately, you get a lot of ammo out of doing that.
Yeah, you do, and it sucks. But it's like I kind of gotta do this, and there's, it felt so weird. It felt wrong. Yeah. And I wonder if that's what it was going for.
And I wonder if that's just a video game thing. Like you said, like, we probably have to have these because it's a video game. There's probably no real great way to couch this.
Yeah, it's kind of like the GTA 4 thing of like Nico Bellic, or not Nico. Nico's the cousin. What's the I don't know. I haven't played the game
I
in
don't
years.
remember.
But basically, it's basically like, oh yes, war is the worst. I'm gonna go kill 500 people.
Yeah, I'm gonna slaughter the city.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's that. I think what's the term for that? Ludonarrative
ludonarrative
dissonance.
dissonance. Yeah,
Yeah, which
yeah,
is an achievement in the new Uncharted game, which I appreciated.
right.
Did you see
Which
that?
is really good.
Where you just recreate, or yeah, that you kill like 1,000 people in Uncharted.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that. But yeah, I think that's one big thing for me. Like, it felt wrong and not like
hmm
it's yeah, I'm
a
an
little
American
disconnected.
citizen and like I know a ton of people in the armed forces. And it's kind
Yeah,
of like I feel like they wouldn't go that route if this was happening, but I think that it almost drives home the whole point of like, this is something's not right here. It's almost used
yeah,
the effect. It's almost part of that ramp
right,
to that ending.
right.
I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling now, but I just something about that's off.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have any other crazy terrible things?
Not really.
Okay.
I found it was a pretty stable experience. Um, but yeah, I agree with all your points. I'd say if you've made it to this point in the episode and you haven't played it,
Hmm.
play it on easy.
Yeah,
There's
absolutely.
no real reason to play it on anything
There's
above.
no fun mechanics that sort of boost as you get harder. It's enjoy the story, and it's
Yeah,
challenging enough on easy. Like, I'm not the best gamer in the world, but I mean, I died a few times just because they throw so many enemies at you,
yeah,
and if you're not trying to pop headshots or like finding where these guys' weaknesses are, you're done.
yeah.
So let's move forward here. Good lines and great moments. I think great should probably be in sarcastic quotes for this particular one
Yeah.
because there are a lot of excellent
Things that
moments.
happened.
There are a lot of things that happened.
Yeah.
And I want to start with one of my personal favorites was the scene where you utilize the white phosphorus
Oh
against the
God.
33rd.
Yeah,
So
I feel like that's this game's hallmark scene.
so this scene is so you find out at one point that the 33rd has been using white phosphorus against the insurgents
Yeah.
of the city, and white phosphorus, for those of you that don't know, is literally hellfire.
Yeah.
It's literally just a mortar full of burning white hot phosphorus that rains down on people.
And I feel like the game does, excuse me, game does a really good job of showing that time and time again, where
Hmm.
it's this isn't this isn't a thing
Hmm.
that is used lightly. This is not, this is not fire.
This
This
is
is white phosphorus for a reason. It's a very clear distinction.
Yes, this is a war crime that isn't illegal yet. Is
Hmm.
essentially what it comes down to.
Right.
And so there's a point where you are faced with a force that you simply could not possibly take out on foot.
There's
But
like it seems like 100 soldiers and they have Humvees and tanks and
mhm,
it's just this field of enemies.
yes, and so your character makes the decision. We are going to use this mortar against them, but we know what they've done, so
Hmm.
we are not going. We're still obviously going to feel bad about this. I mean, there's no avoiding this, but he's almost justifying it in a way,
Right.
comparing their sins, compared to using this. This is the way we need to go because we need to get these people out of here.
Right.
And so you launch a camera, and it's basically a parachute drone that you have a little bit, some limited control over. You can go forward, backwards, but it's falling pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so one of your characters, Lugo, is pointing out targets, and you pull the trigger and you go. As this scene goes on, you are looking at a computer screen the whole time. It's
Yeah, it's
black and
real like
white.
black and white
Yeah,
grayscale.
it's all sort of not night vision. It's clearly infrared,
Yeah.
but it's all grayscale. And as this goes on and as it gets closer to the ground, the screen starts to get darker and darker, and you can slowly see your character's face
Yep.
reflected in the screen.
Which is
And
horrible.
it's just, you see the look on his face of just like sheer horror of
Yeah.
having to do this. And it gets worse
Yeah.
because you find out you've taken out this whole field of soldiers, and tucked away at the very end was a refugee camp that got hit by one of your shots.
I
And
think it was like
they
47 people,
I think it was 43.
something like that. Yeah.
But they pull no punches here.
No.
They pull zero punches here. There is this really, you're walking through, it's just bodies, and they are charred and they are burned. There's the most horrible part of this is the last shot, and it is just a mother holding her daughter, and they are just gone,
Scorched.
scorched.
Yeah.
And it is one of the most powerful things I have ever seen in a game, and one of the most disturbing images I've ever seen in a game. And I played some messed up stuff.
It to me, that shot, especially when they walk away, that would have been, if that was in real life, that would have been on the cover of Time magazine.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, it's just this shot that is horrific, and the game does such a good job of letting you know, like, without pulling any punches, you did this.
Yeah.
You made a choice.
You made this choice.
And you have done something
this is
horrible.
your fault. And this is where your squad starts to unravel. This is there's a tipping point in this game, and it's like when your whole squad is still in it together, and at this point, when you make this decision, this is when your whole squad starts to fall apart.
Infighting,
and it's three guys. It's you, and it's Adams, and it's Lugo, and that's it. And Lugo and Adams are going at it, and you're trying to keep the peace.
Yeah.
And that scene in particular was just so well put together, and just such a it's not fun. There's nothing fun about what you're doing.
It lands like a 10-ton brick at the end, where you're like, yeah, I did this thing that was pretty horrible. Oh, it's actually way worse. Oh my God. And like the weight of it, even through a game, is horrific.
Well, and so before you even get to that last shot, the civilians, you are walking through the burning field of what you have done, and there are soldiers still alive, either begging you to save them or begging you to kill them.
There's a great line by Noel North there, because they're saying, like, what should we do? And he says, we can't do anything for them now. And it's just like, holy hell.
And then,
like,
he tells Lugo to keep his mouth shut, and Lugo gets offended. He's like, "No, dude, the smoke is poisonous.
Yeah,
literally keep your mouth shut."
Yeah.
Oh, and it makes you sick.
Yeah,
and
it's terrible.
I have, this is one of those games. I'm so happy I played it, because so many people have been praising it for so long.
Yeah,
and it's just sort of clicked with me. I was like, I get it.
That scene was sort of like, oh, this is not only unraveling, but this is not the rah-rah war game that started.
Yeah.
It has no problem saying, like, no, this thing that that you're doing in this game, these are not good things.
Yeah.
You're not making the right choices.
You are not the hero. You are the protagonist. You are not the hero.
Yeah.
Did you have any other particular scenes you wanted to point out?
Yeah, I think a scene I actually really liked is I liked the character of the radio man.
Yes.
It's very much this like pulled out of the 70s guy who sort of went rogue, and he's broadcasting music and some sort of messages all across Dubai. He's managed to really kind of hotwire a radio system together, and he's a
nice one too.
And a pretty nice one, yeah. And he's broadcasting a lot of music all across. I really liked the climb up to him and then meeting him. There's this cool part where you're clearly in his area, and there's all like this black light art all around, and he's actually managed to make this little pocket of Dubai his.
Yeah.
And I really liked your squad getting to meet him and getting to talk to him, and his unfortunate demise was
very sudden. Unfortunate demise.
It's very sudden and very out of character for Lugo, and I think it was, for me, I think that was interesting, because I feel like you are seeing the last good character get executed
Hmm.
by the last good person in your squad.
Yes.
Like it's the last the last bit of fun in Dubai gets killed when Lugo has just completely lost everything in this.
Yeah,
And then you
just
get to blow everything up.
and that last light goes out. Oh man. Well,
Yeah.
and the thing. So first off, the Radio Man is voiced by Jake Busey,
Oh, great.
which is a great voice for it. It was bugging me the whole game. I'm like, I know this voice, I know this voice, and I was like, oh yeah, Starship Troopers.
Yeah, it's that guy.
Yeah. He did such a great job with it.
Yeah.
But it's also he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt, and you pick up a piece of intel shortly after that, and you find out, oh yeah, he worked for Rolling Stone for years. He was
Yeah.
considered the Hunter S. Thompson of celebrity gossip,
Yeah.
which is a weird phrase.
Yeah.
And but it looks like he was trying to do some real journalism and pick up the pieces and figure out what happened with this evacuation, why it failed, what happened to Conrad, and
Right.
all this stuff, and you just see all these pieces starting to come together, and it's just another example of like how good those pieces of intel are, because they're contextual and they are not just like, oh, here's your audio log.
Yeah, I really wish I would have picked up more of those. I feel like I
Yeah.
picked up maybe seven or so, and I think there's 21,
Hmm.
something like that. And each one of them were really great. And I wish I got more of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, I feel like almost every scene is really good, but besides the ending, I feel like those are the two scenes that really stood out for me as being kind of, for different reasons, being kind of the tentpole scenes of this game.
Yeah, those are the big ones. My favorite moments, those helicopter. Anytime I was in a helicopter was excellent in this game.
Yep.
So when you start the game in the helicopter and you're just shooting, you're kind of like, oh, they just throwing me into this. Okay,
Yeah.
but then you get back in the helicopter, and this comes after the Radio Man is dead, and you just bust out of there. You get to the helicopter, you clear the path for Lugo, and he comes into the helicopter, and you take off. And this is where Walker starts to lose it. Your character starts to really go off the deep end,
Yep.
because you just spin around this tower, this spire that's on this other building, and you annihilate this thing. And
Yep.
it was
You just wreck it.
yeah, it was where the broadcast was coming from, and you utterly eliminate it from existence.
Yeah.
Which was and it's just your character like, no, come back around, go
Yeah.
back around the tower. We got just we're sending a message, and
Yeah.
ironically, you're sending a message by destroying the only thing that could actually send a message far enough
Right.
into Dubai.
Right.
There's all sorts of weird little just like that in this game, which I kind
Yeah.
of love.
Yeah.
And then there was there's a scene that happens. The water. Uh, you hook up at
Oh,
one point the tanker trucks.
yeah, after you take them from the fish place.
Yeah, the aquarium.
Aquarium.
Yeah, that's the
That's
word
it.
you're looking for.
Yeah, the professional fish place.
Professional fish place. Oh God, if only we did titles for this show.
Yeah.
So yeah, you break in, you hook up with a member of the CIA, because there's some intrigue happening here. There's members
Yeah.
of the CIA in Dubai that are trying to figure out what happened during the evacuation and why it went wrong. And this particular member, he leads you into the. He has started the. He's gotten the civilians to become sort of like a ragtag army,
Mhm.
that's throwing themselves against the 33rd, which are the American soldiers you've been up against the whole game.
Right.
And so he sends his insurgents in, and they distract him, and you guys sneak in the back of the aquarium, because if you get rid of their water, you have control of the whole situation.
Yeah.
Because it's the desert, and there's
Yeah.
no way out of said desert.
Right.
So you get in, and you steal the tanker trucks, and you're under the impression the whole time that you're just stealing the tanker trucks. You're going to move them to a different location and secure them. That seems
Yeah.
to be the what they're operating under. That is not the intent.
No.
It turns out the intent is to simply destroy them.
Yeah.
And that happens. But before that happens, you are treated to a delightful set piece where you are driving through this destroyed Dubai, hanging off the back of a tanker truck, with a grenade launcher in the other hand that has unlimited ammo.
Yeah, that was that was messed up, but it was pretty fun.
It was totally screwed up, but it was a ton more fun than it should have been. And that's when
Yeah.
they sort of introduced like the themes of like the civilians hating you guys.
Yeah.
And that gets to the biggest moment in this game for me is Lugo's death.
Yeah.
So you get to a point after the helicopter crashes. You're on the radio with Lugo, and you find out he's broken his arm. He doesn't have a gun. He doesn't have any ammo for his weapon, and so he's on the run from the 33rd. You don't ever see him until you've fought through tons of them. This is where like all the yachts have been abandoned in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, you and Adams fight across this like abandoned yacht yard.
Yeah, and it just gets crazier and crazier. And there's some of the most intense fights in the game, I thought. And you finally get to him, and between the last fight and getting to him again, like it sounds like another squad of the 33rd is encroaching on him and closing in on him, and you just hear him like start screaming like, "No, get away from me! Get away from me! Stay away from me!" And you start to realize, oh no, if these were soldiers, they just would have shot him. We wouldn't be hearing him anymore. We wouldn't hear him like yelling at people.
Yeah.
It's civilians, and
Yeah.
you basically have this crowd of citizens from Dubai. They lynch him. And
Yeah.
that's the only way you can put it. They string him up by his neck over a light post.
Yeah.
And by the time you get to him, it's too late. And it's just this very... Adams is trying to control the crowd. He's one guy with a gun against, like... that crowd had to be 100 strong.
Yeah.
And you're talking 100 civilians, but it's two guys with a gun, and he's not going to shoot without your orders. And so you're trying to revive Lugo, you're trying to bring him back, and it's just not working. You close his eyes and you stand up, and I expected this to continue to be a cutscene.
Right.
And this is where the brilliance of this game comes out. They say, no, here's control of your character back.
If you're gonna shoot him, shoot him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what you did in this particular scene at the end of it, but I chose to simply just do a rifle butt to the one dude who seemed to have actually done something.
Oh,
He
I
was
didn't
the
know
guy-
you could do that.
He was the guy holding the gun, or holding the rope, and so
Right.
I go up to him and I just kind of rifle butt him, and he drops and he runs off, and I think Adams starts firing at that point, but I think he just fires into the air. I didn't see anybody actually drop.
Yeah, no, I actually fired in the air
Okay,
just to disperse the crowd and then wandered out of there as quickly as possible.
yeah, and so but the one guy who actually did Lugo, I was like, I feel like I'm not gonna be able to just fire into the air. It's not gonna do anything.
Yeah, thankfully it let you just fire straight up
Oh,
and just
good. Yeah.
get him out of there.
Yeah, I went a slightly darker path.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are probably the biggest scenes in this game.
There are so many, but I feel like those are the standouts.
Yeah, and just I mean the only other one is that last fight at the end is real good. Just it's a slog, but man, when you finish it, you're like, yes, I did it.
I did this. Wait, it was terrible.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's all I have for great moments. Anything else?
I think we nailed the big ones without kind of recapping the entire game.
Yeah.
Those are kind of
at
the
this point we really have, and like the march up to the final scene is pretty great, and the final scene is all good. But I feel I don't want to directly spoil that. I think we've spoiled enough of it. But
yeah.
you get any weird stuff, any glitches, emergent gameplay, interesting?
No,
fun
this
stuff?
I found this game to be really stable. I feel like anytime it did any of that stuff, it was purposeful for this story.
Yeah, the only glitch that I know I had, and I don't even know if it was a glitch. I think it was just so there's a state for the enemies, so you can shoot an enemy and they go down, but they're not dead, and they will
They're
continue
kind
to
of
writhe, and that's
down
when
but not out almost.
yeah, and you can do the execute move on them, which once again we discussed. That's sort of a weird thing,
Pretty brutal.
but when you're in a helicopter and you're stuck there and you're just firing into a crowd, you can't go up to those guys. So I'm pretty sure what happened to me. So this is the scene where right before like that ending helicopter chase where it repeats the beginning, when Lugo is trying to make his way to you, you're just mowing dudes down with this turret on this helicopter. And I had gotten everybody, and Lugo was not coming towards me. I was really worried I was going to have to reload the game. and I just waited it out long enough, and I'm pretty sure what happened is the last dude bled out.
Yeah, like they were behind cover and you couldn't see them, and
Yeah,
eventually they just
and Lugo's not going to move until everyone's gone. Like that's the
right.
trigger for the next scene. Is okay, this last soldier is dead.
Yeah, there was a little bit of wonkiness for me with that too, but
Hmm.
it was pretty few and far between. And that sort of stuff is, older game stuff, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
And he did eventually come. Like he didn't break the game, but it was an interesting glitch,
yeah,
which I'm not 100% sure was a glitch. It was just sort of borked behavior script or
yeah,
something.
some weirdness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall, I would absolutely suggest anybody who didn't play this game go play this game.
Hmm.
Especially as it ages, I feel as though it won't age very well because it was mediocre in its time and it's still a little on the mediocre side now
Yeah.
as far as gameplay is concerned. But when you're talking story, I haven't played a war game with this nuanced and cerebral of a story.
Right.
I can't remember when.
Yeah, I don't think I have either, and I sort of consider a few games to be, the video game equivalent of required reading,
Hmm.
and I think Spec Ops: The Line is absolutely in that list. If you like video games and you want to see a game that does something different and legitimately tackles tough subjects in a mature way,
Yeah.
I think Spec Ops is great. You're not gonna, like Hannah said, you're not gonna come to it for the gameplay,
No.
but you will come to it for an incredible story.
Yeah. I mean that's really all you can say about it.
Yeah, just go play it on
Yeah.
easy.
Yes, play it on easy. Don't
Yeah,
don't hurt yourself.
yeah,
Not that you will, but
yeah.
you know. All right. I think that sort of brings us to a nice natural little end here.
I think so.
You got anything you want to put out there, plug? Besides the
Yeah,
norm.
go listen to the sort of TVGP proper episodes.
Yeah.
We do Picking Up the Pixels at pickingupthepixels.com. We talk about RPGs every month.
Hmm.
And if you want to watch my playthrough of this or watch my other YouTube videos, I play Binding of Isaac and Enter the Gungeon basically every day. You can find that at bostonhannon.com. That just kicks you over to my YouTube channel. It's easier than typing whatever my YouTube URL is.
Yeah. You can find me pretty much anywhere as the Hannah. Steam, Xbox, PSN, I think even Twitch when the rare times I actually do stream. Who has the time?
Right.
Well, you have the time, but
Well, yeah,
uh,
I still don't.
so we are thinking about not necessarily doing some changes to this particular show, but we are kicking around some new ideas as far as like how to get more people involved in Game Club and get you guys excited to play these games and get you guys talking about playing these games.
Yep.
So be on the lookout for that. Follow us on Twitter. I'll say join the forums.
Yep.
Although we may move to a new forum system. Who knows?
Hopefully.
Hopefully, our forums, our current software is getting a little long in the tooth, so we're talking
Yeah.
about an upgrade.
Well, new coat of paint, possibly.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would that would go over pretty well too.
Yeah.
Join Discord. Discord.me/tvgp is the URL. It'll bring
It's a
you
good
right
time.
into the room. And we want to hear from you guys about these games. We want to hear about your experiences with these games. We want to hear that you guys are playing these games and enjoying them as much as we are, or in some cases, maybe not enjoying them so much, and you have a different perspective.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you guys. We want to feature some of that stuff on the show. So if you guys are playing these games, email us tvgpfans@gmail.com.
Yep.
Hit us up on Twitter. Post in the forums. We do a thread every month that breaks down all the different aspects of the game, and that forum is totally up for discussion too. So
Yep. We can loop all that stuff into the show, so don't
absolutely.
be shy.
Yeah. So be on the lookout. We're gonna post the next voting thread here probably tonight or tomorrow. Depending on when I get around to it, to be perfectly honest. And that's going to be a slightly different approach too. So we're trying to adapt. We're trying to make the show the best show it can be.
Yep.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for listening, everybody, and we will see you all next month.
Bye.
Peace.
Okay.